Hey folks, what's up? I know it's Friday. You saw me 2 times this week already, right? Are you tired of my face? You're not? I don't know. It's fine. So don't worry about it. So look, today I'm ending the season off right with these last few episodes because I have some really incredible stuff, really cool people I want to speak to, awesome stuff going on. Beautiful. But before I get into this, let me make sure that you're okay. How was your week? All right. Okay, cool. How was work? I know. Work is like that sometimes, but remember, do what you got to do today so you can do what you want to do tomorrow. I don't know if that helps, but I hope it always does. How's the family and loved ones? I know. They be saying things like that sometimes, but they're loved ones. Sometimes you got to roll with the punches as long as they're not coming out with anything too wild for you. That's what family and loved ones do. You got to go back and forth. I don't know. That's the balance. That's it. Did you drink water today? Did you take your meds? Not trying to please you. I just want to make sure that you're being the best you that you can be because an empty vessel can't pour into another vessel. You can't. So I want to make sure that you're good, that you took your meds, whether it's for a mental, emotional, or physical ailment. Again, I'm not trying to please you. Just want to make sure that you're the best you that you can be, so you feel how you have earned to feel, and taking those steps to be, again, you, and be able to enjoy the things that are out, whether it's food, whether it's a partner or partners, or whether you just like taking a walk or read a book or a movie or gaming, whatever it is. I want you to be able to enjoy those things and feel good about yourself. All right, folks, I've got a great show. Got a phenomenal guest that we're going to talk a lot about manga. We're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about trauma. We're going to talk about comics. We're going to talk about fun. We're going to have some laughs. And I have always my polarizing question at the end of the show. It's one of two things I ask you. And it's a very hard question to answer, but it's a fun question to answer. So there we go. All right. So are you ready? All right, let's go. Oh, hey folks, sorry you caught me on the phone. I was texting my Wookiee friend out there, going to tell me some stuff about Andor and a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. So, folks, welcome to the Hungry Bleak Show. I am Antonio Pomares, aka the Hungry Bleak, hungriest man in the room. Take that however you want. So today, I've got someone who wrote and created a comic that really helped me during the pandemic. It was extremely entertaining and it was a comfort read. I read the first issue including today, I read it about 7 times. Second issue, I read about 5 times. I read the first issue more because I was waiting for the second Kickstarter to start up, to be honest with you. Uh, this was a comic that it's a manga that I guess it would be considered a shonen is the term. But it deals with trauma and it's very deep and very interesting and I just really loved it and it's always on my mind, so I had to contact him and say, hey man, are you good with coming on talking about it? He said yes, so here we are, folks. Please welcome James Church, the writer and creator of Immortal Dark.
Hey, what's good?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Today has been a chill day, and this is the last thing on my list. So that's I'm ending with a bang.
Look, man. All right, look. This is like the last thing on my list. Then today, I'm probably either going to read or I'm going to watch some Diners, Drive-In, and Dives. That's my Friday thing,
Oh, I love that. I love that show.
dude. I like Guy really inspired me in a lot of things, dude. There's a very deep reason why I'm so invested in Guy,
Mm,
which is for a whole other reason. But you you created a really incredible manga in Immortal Dark.
thank
But let me start a little before that. um, what got you into creating a comic and how does that link with the work that you do as well?
you. Yeah. So semi long story. I'm gonna try to hit the beat. Um, so I started drawing when I had to be like 5 or 6. Like I used to draw when
Oh.
I was really young. And like I wanted to be an animator. Like that was my like dream job. Literally, like in middle school, I used to get computer paper and staple them together and like make like comic books and panel out and like all of that stuff, right? And then in 8th grade, my 8th grade English teacher, Miss Rado, I will never forget her. She assigned us a poetry book as our like end of year project. So
Mhm.
everybody in class had to write a poetry book. Now in middle school, I was not that guy. Nobody cared about me. You know what I'm saying? I had very minimal friends,
Mhm.
always in conflict. It was a lot of things going on in my personal life as well, like even outside of school. It was
Mhm.
just a very turbulent time. And I also happened to be at one of the most violent middle schools in Wilmington. So like it was just like a lot of things not going in my
There's a
favor.
lot of stuff piling up on you right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And uh through the process of writing poetry, which I had never done in my life until getting this assignment, uh, I kind of like garnered respect from my peers in a weird way. Like it was the first time, like with the class reading my poetry book, because we had to like pass it around for peer edits. It
Mhm.
was the first time like I felt like anybody cared about anything I had to say. And like it was to the point where like some of these students who I wasn't even like friends with was just like, yo, like this is amazing. And then they ended up like signing me up for this like middle school poetry contest, which I ended up winning. And long story short, from that point, I was like, okay, I don't want to draw no more. Drawing doesn't do the things for me that
Mhm.
poetry is doing. I was like, I was drawing, ain't nobody care
Right.
about it. I started writing. People were like, "Oh, what do you have to say?" And so I'm like, "Okay, this is what I need to be doing, right?" So from high school all the way through college, I was writing poetry. I was also rapping, but that's like irrelevant to this specific question. Um, Graduated college, started coming to Philly to perform, so on and so forth. While all of this is happening, though, I have been a big anime and manga fan for like my entire life. I've been watching anime for as long as I can remember. And then once I got like old enough, started reading manga, things like that. And like that desire I had to create my own thing, even though I stopped drawing, that desire to like create my own thing never left. And so once I got to a point where I felt like, okay, I feel good about where I am poetry wise. I feel good about my writing ability. I was like, you know what? I want to entertain making a manga or anime again. Like I want to jump back into that bag, but from a different side because I wasn't drawing anymore. So I jumped back in from like the writing standpoint. And this happened around like 2015. And from 2015 to 2019, I was just like cycling through concepts. Like I would like really dive deep to, I would world build, I would come up with character bios, build out the cultures, power systems, all of that. But for whatever reason, like a lot of the ideas, they just weren't sticking to me or inspiring me enough to like make it to the point that I made it to with Immortal Dark. So in 2019, I was like, all right, I've done like all of this research around how to make a manga. I've done all of this research on like the industry, so on and so forth. But none of that is like taking me where I'm trying to go. So I was like, maybe I need to do some research on how to stick with a concept. So I went on YouTube, started deep diving, listening to a lot of other mangakas and comic artists around like their world building process. And a lot of what was coming to me was around like not writing what you want to see, but writing what you care about. Which is like a
Okay.
very thin line difference, but I was like, I think this is making sense. So I went back. I gathered all of the things I've ever written, all of my rap songs, all of my poems, and I read through all of them like over the course of like 3 or 4 days to identify like what are the core themes that I'm always talking about or most often talking about. And the core themes that came up were mental health and generational trauma. Those were like the two things that always somehow made it into my work. Um, and you know, I would say like the two things that have taken up the most space in my life, both like because of my family history, and like my own battles with my own mental health. And so I was like, okay, whatever I create has to be centered on these two things because these are the two things that I'm most often writing about. Um, and then another one of the tips I had got was build the world before you create the characters. So that way, the appeal of the world is not dependent on the character's likability. And if we think about like some of the series that we enjoy the most, Avatar: The Last Airbender, My Hero Academia, Naruto, these are all series where there's a very robust world and we're just following specific characters in that world, right? They do happen to be like the most important characters. But for example, without Aang, Avatar is still interesting, right? That
Yeah.
world, that whole feud with the Fire Nation, all of that is still really interesting. Same with My Hero Academia. If Deku is not the focal point, I'm still interested in the other heroes. If Naruto isn't the focal point in certain episodes in Naruto, there's Rock Lee, there's Neji, there's Sasuke, there's the other villages, you know, the village hidden in the clouds, like all of these other worlds and characters that are so interesting that we can step away from the main characters sometimes, or we can take the spotlight from them because of how interesting the world is. And so, like, I took that advice in as well. I started building the world of Immortal Dark, and then I started like ironing out the characters. But long story, medium long. That is how I got into comics.
But that's a great point too, because I'm thinking about it, and yeah, the world is what you really have to. The world is really the core, and
Mhm.
then whoever you have on top of that, so makes it's going to be, you know, who are inhabited that world are just going to make it better. But you can have a rotating cast. You can have generations too, because you can have characters die, and they're. I mean, Avatar is a perfect example of that. You can have like you have Korra, and now you're going to have Avatar: The Seven Heavens, which is going to
Yep.
be the new anime series, and you're going to have another Avatar. So
Yep.
yeah, if you have that world that you care about and you build, and the world can evolve, obviously it will,
Mhm.
and you can have those a rotating cast of characters, generationals, everything. That yeah, that is a very yeah, because a lot of times the world can be its own character as well.
Yep.
Like in Avatar, I cared about. I mean, obviously the characters were incredible, but I cared about that world because I was wondering about different nations and how they lived and the cultures and everything. So that's a great point to. I hope anyone who's listening who's trying to write something or was thinking about writing or is having some trouble, that's a that's like a number one tip right there. That's now I'm going to pay even more attention to the worlds that I'm of comics I'm reading and stuff. I'm going to pay more attention to those worlds. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
thank you for dropping that. That's pretty cool.
Oh, no problem. Like, I mean, I think it's one of the reasons, and no shade to DC and Marvel, but I think it's one of the reasons why we're constantly recycling characters instead of following new ones because they're more concerned about the character than they are about the world. There's so much, using Batman as an example, there's so much that can be built out with Gotham, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like they've tried it in different ways. Like Gotham had its own TV show where like Batman wasn't the focal point, but
Yeah.
it's like it's too late now, right? Like at that juncture, we're here for a specific reason,
Hmm.
and until you give us that reason, like we're all just like waiting with bated breath. But there's so much that like could have been done with that. I always wanted to write. It's probably never going to happen now, especially because like I don't really even have much interest in like writing for one of the big two. But I always had this idea of a Batman comic where Bruce Wayne, because of his trauma and because of how rich his family is, has investment in Arkham Asylum, and that's the reason why he doesn't kill. because he needs to keep cycling people in and out of the prison system in order to continue to get money to fund his vigilante work. And so there's like this way in which he is both the problem and the source. And then that's why Dick Grayson ends up leaving and becoming Nightwing, not because Batman is a child abuser, which he is, but because he's like, yo, I'm watching you, for lack of a better phrase, like be America, and I can't support that. And that seems like a much more interesting Batman story to me, but it will never be written because it requires Batman to be the villain. But yeah, that's a whole tangent.
I think there was a story similar to that or something. How I know there was some for a while. I know he was living. I think he was living under Arkham. Like there was something happened to Wayne Manor. I don't keep up with Batman because there's like 97 titles, and I don't have that
Yes,
much time
a
on it.
lot.
But there is a story where he is actually kind of the villain, and the Joker is kind of the hero, a White Knight, which is
Yeah, the
actually better.
White Knight role. I remember
Yeah,
that one. Yeah.
yeah. But I love the idea of that. Like that would be a great Black Label series because they're not going to let that go for long. So I
Yeah.
would do that for like I mean let's be real. Like that would be when like their great maxi series. They do great like 12 issue series like for a whole year. Maxi series. That would be I would read the hell out of that because I love Nightwing and he's always been the one who's like I don't want to be like you. I can't stand you.
Fire.
He's always been cool to me and I've always found him more interesting than I found Batman more interesting.
Absolutely.
So that was very important. I don't know why that was very important, but it is very important to say that Nightwing is Nightwing needs justice, a live action proper introduction. I mean, Titans was all right, but I need a proper Nightwing live action something. Yeah, that's the like I'm still tripping over that whole like world first and then the character because that makes so much sense because that's what happens anyway. Whatever Earth was created, then beings came here.
Literally,
that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like without the Earth, like we'd just be in space. Just frozen chunks of flesh. That's all it is. That's great. Speaking of comics and creating, you have Immortal Dark, which is your manga, which is an incredibly layered world building. Which now that you said that, I understand why your world building is so detailed in this world of almost a mixed martial arts tournament, a UFC type of thing where it's and it's filled with some of the most interesting characters and cultures, truthfully, and I love it. Can you tell us about Immortal Dark and how you worked healing from trauma into that, which is beautiful, by the way?
Yeah. So Immortal Dark is a story about I tend to say it's about both siblings, Nico and River, even though Nico is technically the main character. But it follows Nico Savage, who is the son of one of the greatest martial artists of their time period, and being as though him and his sister were raised under this human being, you could imagine it wasn't necessarily the most healthiest household. His whole life's mission was to raise children who could be equally as strong as him. And there is a reason for that I can't say per se without like spoiling the entire story. But there is a reason for it. And so him and River, Nico and River, they make a pact that once they become strong enough, they're going to kill their father as retribution for their childhood. Some time moves on, and River ends up taking on that task herself. And for Nico, it's very challenging because taking his father's life was what he understood to be the way to receive accountability, the way to be consoled for their rough childhood. It's like, I experienced these things, and this is the way for me to amend it. And because that way was taken from him by his sister, which she also has reasons for that, he's now in a space of, well, what do I do with like all this grief and rage and frustration? And the only thing he knows how to do, which is a common mistake I think we often make as humans, is to project it onto the next closest person, which is his sister. So when we start the story of Immortal Dark, Nico has made the what's the word I'm looking for? He's made the resolve within himself that
Mm.
because he can't kill his father, he will now kill his sister because she took that opportunity from him, and that's where the story picks up. Um, in a way, it kind of like ties into my own life. So I was predominantly raised by my great grandmother and my mom. I lived with my great grandmother, but my mom was definitely like very much a part of my upbringing.
Mhm.
My great grandmother, of course, like she's my great grandmother, so she was 70 when I was born, uh, and she had dementia by the time I was 10,
Mm.
and from like 10 into adulthood was just a very long decay. And she was not like the friendly version of dementia. She was a very volatile
Oh.
version of dementia, which caused a lot of harm for both me, my mom, and my younger sister. Because I have a sister that's 5 years younger than me. And when she passed in 2016, I didn't know what to do with all of that energy. Because I mean, she wasn't sane enough to be accountable and apologize. Uh, so it was like, how do I get closure? That's the word I was looking for earlier, closure.
Okay.
How do I get closure? And one of the other tips that I got like during this my time of like figuring out how to stick with a story was that your story should address a question you don't have an answer to,
Oh,
because
ooh.
that's how you make sure that you're not preaching to the audience, but instead growing with the audience. Because through writing it, you're discovering the answer the same way the audience is. And so for me, what I did not have an answer to at that time was like, what do I do with my grief when a person I need accountability for isn't here? And that's the same problem Nico is dealing with. So me and Nico are literally like one to one. And writing the story has been very monumental in me grappling with that, because in this like analogy where I'm Nico, my great grandmother would be Savan. That's Nico and River's father's name.
Mhm.
And so because I'm writing this story and Savan is a character, and even though he's deceased when the story starts, like I still have to build that character out, right? He has to have history with these
Yes.
children. There has to be things that harken back to, also because he was essentially like the strongest person alive at that time. He has ripple effects through the entire world, right? Which is something I thought was very genius that I got from My Hero Academia, right? Like in My Hero Academia, for all intents and
Mhm.
purposes, All Might actually is the most important character, but he's not the main character, right? When we're watching My Hero Academia, we're watching the ripple effects of all of All Might's actions. And so I was like, that's really intelligent. And so I kind of like molded those two things together. So I have to write Savan, and in writing Savan and building out his history and building out his why for doing things, it's helped me build a lot more empathy for my great grandmother and like the things that she even did before having the dementia that were not necessarily the healthiest, and like understanding like I may not know all the reasons for those things, and I think a lot of that is because most of the people who would have that information are, deceased.
Mhm.
It doesn't change the fact that like most likely she wasn't intending to be harmful, right? Like I heard one time, which I actually wrote a poem about. My therapist told me a while ago, nobody feeds on people that hasn't been fed on themselves. And just like really like
Mhm.
on this understanding that very, very rarely is somebody like born with the intention to cause harm, right? Most likely, people are harmed, and in trying to fill the gap that harm has created, they harm other people, right? But it's rarely ever for the purposes of causing harm. It's most often for the purposes of filling a gap and them not having the tools. They have maladaptive tools to do it.
Mhm.
And so like, yeah, the story has taken me like through all of that process. Um, and it's been very eye-opening for me, a very healing process. And it's like shifted a lot of, like my trauma-informed teaching work, a lot of my community organizing work has been shifted by it as well. Because I think my aptitude for grace has been drastically expanded because of the process of writing this story.
It's beautiful that to give yourself grace and to heal, and also to see what your great grandmother was going through
Yeah,
and all that. And you found a medium, a platform to help yourself see these things and also to heal yourself with that.
yeah,
And also putting it out there, like to people who may not be able to go to someone like a specialist or a counselor or something like that. Maybe they read the comic and they can empathize with something there and go, I'm
yeah,
kind of exhibiting these traits. Let me see if I can speak to someone, because they may not know that, because that's just their everyday life of, this is how I was, this is what I saw, this is how I was raised, this is what I know, this is all I've ever known.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
think that's a normal thing, you know what I mean? And normal is a very relative term nowadays, but that's what they saw as being an everyday thing, and it shouldn't be. So
yeah,
if this medium can help someone and see that, and it can help them to actually acknowledge the pain, the hurt, the trauma, so then they can actually heal from it,
yeah.
is beautiful. And I applaud when artists are able to convey that through their work,
Oh,
and
thank
to be able to use that and help it. Not only is the book entertaining as all hell, let me put that out there. The
you.
fights are incredible. The cast of characters are just vast and deep and wonderful. But then to have that message of the hurt,
Mm.
and you took that away from me, so now I got to kill you, which is just another. It was just compounding on
Yeah.
what's already there. And I'm like, that's not how this is done, Nico. I don't know. I don't know if you know this. And he's like, I've got, and then someone goes, well, it is legal in the fight to kill the person if they're still able to fight back. And I was like, I don't think any of you are helping Nico in any way, shape, or form at all. I think this isn't the best place to do this. And it just made, because I would read the line and I was like, I don't think I read that right. And I read it again and I was like, no, I did read that right. So even that is just like, but again, that is in the rule book, so it's legal.
Yeah.
And I'm asking for logical things in a tournament fight where everyone is going to fight.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I'm going, maybe this isn't the best way. Like, that's me being in the locker room going, did you have to punch him in the face 5 times? I mean, maybe at the 4th time you could have laid back and just let him tap.
But to
This is
that,
not really
right?
working.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I really try to do as best as I can to my ability is like exhibit like real world things, right?
Yes.
Like from as like non-judgmental a lens as I possibly can. And I
Mhm.
think like one of the real world things like that you're bringing up, like, Nico is telling this thing, and Inoki's like, well, come do this because that'll be the best way for you to achieve that goal, right?
Mhm.
Because Inoki doesn't have all of the background information. And this is
Yes.
like something that we see and participate in like every day in life. Like, how many times, right? Like, have we talked to a homie and he's like, man, this is what happened, and da 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 da. And we're giving the homie advice based off the information they're providing us. But it
Yes.
might be some parts that's missing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if we zoomed out, maybe me supporting this is not the best choice. But
Yes, exactly.
we don't know until we know. And there's gonna be some elements of that um in the story as well. I really wanted to be like a building of like, yeah, like I wouldn't do that, but I see how you got there. Like type of
Yeah.
energy. Yeah.
But when I had that thought, it made me realize, because I have like this thing that I call the Pomara scale. You have to hit each of those points in order for me to get the comic. If it doesn't hit one of those points, I stop reading the comic immediately and I go on and do something else. I don't waste the time. I don't waste the time. I'm not one of those people who's going to read 5 issues of a comic and go, I don't really like it, but I think he's onto something. Those two things don't go together. That doesn't make any sense. Why are you wasting your time and money on this? It doesn't make any sense.
I support that.
I hate that about comic book culture at times when Spider-Man became Superior Spider-Man. Everybody was so mad, but y'all kept reading. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why then stop reading it?
Yep.
It'll go back to the status quo. Give it a year or two. He'll be back in the same costume. It'll be Peter again. Give it time. You'll be all right. So it's basically these things. Am I intrigued by the world? Absolutely. Am I invested in the characters? Absolutely, I'm invested because I want to see what's going to happen with this fight. Is he going to actually kill his sister? Will she end up defending herself and quite possibly kill him? Who are these other fighters? Because I always in any like anime tournament, I always love seeing the other fighters and seeing what they can do, and will they become a part of the main crew? Because some usually end up doing that. If I am, it's intrigued, invested. If I'm invested, that means I care. That means I want to know what's going on with these characters before all of this. And if I care, that means it's a cool comic and I like it and I keep reading it. This one ticked all the boxes within the first probably 5 pages.
I love that.
So that means I'm invested, because if I'm asking questions like that, I'm invested. If I'm putting myself like, maybe don't tell him to do that. Maybe that's not that, because you're giving him a legal out to kill his sister. I was like, I don't know if that's the best. And it wasn't like, this is dumb. And I stopped reading. I was like, I don't know if that's the best, but let me keep reading because I want to see what's going to happen. This is incredibly interesting to me. So I love that fact. Can we talk about the cast of characters real quick? Because you have just amazing characters in this story and in this world.
Yeah. So where to start? My thought process with the cast. One is I wanted almost everybody to be Black. And we'll probably get to this later. But the story is in a revamp phase. So Commander Beza, for example, he is white appearing right now. That was actually an accident. That was a miscommunication between me and the artist. And the artist thought I was describing a white person, so that's what he drew. But really, like, he was supposed to be like because he lives in like a very cold area, he was supposed to be a frosted, like light-skinned Black person, right?
Okay, yeah.
So now that we're like redesigning and revamping, I'm correcting that so his new design looks more accurate than this design does. So everybody's Black is the point that I was getting to. So I wanted everybody to be Black, and part of my reason for that is I don't think that is as far-fetched as people like to make it seem. I think we've been normalized with whiteness as the status quo or the baseline. And I'm like, yeah, in America, the majority of people are white, but in the world, the majority of people are not actually. And so like, if we're thinking about a worldview, it makes more sense for most people to be Black or brown. And so I'm sticking on that. I'm also just very invested in Black and brown people because I'm one of them. So that was really important. 2, I'm really big on like, and this might be my reasoning on this might be a hot take. I hate Love Jones as a movie, right?
Okay.
I hate Jones. That Kendrick Lamar song, We Cry Together, I also don't like, right? Most rom-coms I don't like. Not because they're rom-coms, but because of what I'm about to say. I feel like a lot of times with artistry, we're so imaginative in all of these different ways. But then when it comes to conflict resolution, we replicate all the harmful things that we see people do on a regular basis, right? Love Jones, they're communicating poorly throughout that entire fucking movie. The entire movie, they are communicating horribly and then just coming back together like, we love each other, so it's going to work, right? And I don't, I'm not one of those like media informs how we act, or like I think it's a cycle, right? So we
Hmm.
inform media, and then media reinforces what we're already informing. And so when we absorb all of these things that show us how to live in dysfunction, we continue to live in dysfunction because it feels relatable, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to like what happens when we take imagination and it's like, okay, I'll have this problem start how all problems start, but then I'll have it resolve in a healthy way. But we feel like that's not entertaining sometimes. And so, like, bringing that back to Immortal Dark, I really wanted to show people like what the possibilities of Black existence are. And that's why, like, there are so many different Black identities amongst the cast. Cause, like, we're not a monolith. We're not all poor. We're not all straight. We're not even all like assigning to the gender binary, right?
Hmm.
But all of us are still Black, and all of us are still valuable, and all of us still deserve love and care and resources and all of that, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, if there are people who don't believe this, I'm just going to show them what that looks like via the story. That's why we have like people like Anoki, who is Amaruk, and all of the Amaruk are non-binary, right? From birth. They're like, we don't care about gender, and it doesn't stop them from repopulating. It doesn't
Yes.
stop them from being able to function and have healthy relationships, because like gender as like a science is real, but like gender, how we often engage with it in terms of like a construct, social norms, all of that is made up. It's all made up. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And to be scientifically accurate, like there are people who are born with both sexual organs, right? And that is a real thing. You can just pop out that way, right? But we try to act like that's not a thing. So all of that to say, like, that is an important thing to show, like, yo, you don't need this thing the way you think you do. Then we have characters like Shula, who is Muslim adjacent. Muslim doesn't like exist in this world, but she is of a tribe of people called the Ifrit, which live in the Sun Peaks. And both, well, I was gonna say men and women, but you can be non-binary in this culture as well. It's just not the entire culture like the Amaru. All
Hmm.
humans in their culture wear head coverings because they have um spiritual investment in like the hair in a way that like will get like expanded upon in the story.
Mm.
And then that's, that is showing what these type of engagements can look like, and what are some aspects of culture that we're maybe not respecting and thinking about. Then you have like Imanu, who is from Atlantis. And like a lot of my character thought process is like taking things that I really enjoy and then redefining them. I really enjoy like redefining something. So one of the reasons Atlantis is in the world, it's because I've always thought Atlantis was cool. It's also one of my favorite Disney movies. And
Okay.
I was like, well, what does it look like to repurpose that? So Atlantis is like the Caribbean equivalent in the world of Immortal Dark. So like all of like Afro Caribbean culture is like what is influencing my concept of Atlantis. And instead of it being an underwater nation, is actually a cavern that spirals down in the ocean, and then the ocean just like waterfalls into it, kind of. So it's like a spiral of island people like living immersed in the ocean but not covered
Oh,
by it.
wow.
Yeah, it's like a really
All
cool
right.
genre. I can't wait to like show more of, and they like use tridents, and there's a way in which like I'm a big Bleach fan, so their tridents kind of function a little bit like Zanpakutos. So everybody's trident doesn't necessarily look the same, and like how their spiritual attunement is, because they're also like one of the more spiritually inclined cultures in Immortal Dark. So they don't
Hmm.
participate in any outside culture. If it's not of Atlantis, they not with it. Which kind of plays into how Imanu gets into the IFC and his backstory, and like there's a lot that comes up with that. And they would also effectively be like the Black aristocrats of this world, right? Like they're
Okay.
the talented 10th people, you know what I'm saying? And
All right. Yeah.
what that can look like and how that can ripple effect, right? Because Imanu has really bad anxiety, which you see in chapter 3. And so it's like
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that I'm thinking about in regards to like how do I make the world diverse? How do I make the world both like real and also still showing people what possibilities are? Because I feel like what's the point of using my imagination if I only use it to show you what is already present? And that stuff be sucking sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's okay. Yeah, I love the idea of a character with anxiety and being around water
Mm,
because
mm.
water can be literally and figuratively suffocating, and anxiety. You're like people who can't swim and people on a boat. And so I was like, oh, that's very that's very that's very interesting to me.
And
Also,
then
the fact of the bleach factor that you said with the tridents and the I can see a whole mini series just set in Atlanta in my head. I'm like, yeah, this is all right, cool. All right.
and similarly with like Nico and River. So part of why I decided to follow them with the story, I I didn't put this together on my own, like this connection. My editor, Tommy Horsey, who's also like just a really good friend of mine, he pointed this out to me. So Full Metal Alchemist is one of my favorite animes. Um, I love alchemy as a concept. Yep, there's Tommy with his very chiseled face. Um,
Just chisel from onyx and just shea
yeah,
butter,
he looked like
just
the perfect
clean,
specimen.
just a clean brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always liked the idea of alchemy, this concept of like transmuting things. And so going back to my love of repurposing,
Hmm.
I was like, what if alchemists were not people who could turn things into gold, but turn themselves into gold, right? And that's how we get the alchemist culture in Immortal Dark. And in
Oh,
general, I always have had, for some strange reason, a fascination with characters who can change their skin. Colossus is one of my favorite X-Men.
okay.
Even though this is not necessarily changing your skin, I also am a big Silver Surfer fan. Right? Like there's something about skin being different. I love just like those type of transformations. I love werewolves. Like that whole thing is cool to me. Even though I don't like Twilight, the fact that like Edward could shimmer in the sun, I thought that was cool. Right? Like that, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's dope. Um, and so
Oh,
with that, one of the other tips I had picked up was like your main character always has to be different in some way, right? Has to be an outlier. And one of the things I wanted to stay away from, I feel like sometimes in shonen anime, the main character could be an outlier in like an insurmountable way. It's like this power is just super OP. We could use Black Clover as an example, right? Like Asta doesn't have magic, that's his outlier thing. And then he has anti-magic now, right? Which like essentially makes him able to nullify every character that he comes against. And yeah,
mm,
he has his battles and they have their fights, but it's like at the end of the day, this is a super cheat code. You know what I'm saying?
true.
So I wanted to stay away from that. So I landed on like, what's the like blackest thing I could do? And I'm like, well, Nico could just become Onyx, which is
Truth.
in real world time harder than gold. It's a harder mineral, right? So it puts him at an advantage over his own culture, but it does not put him at an advantage over the entirety of the continent. Nico can still very much lose a fight. Nico can still very much get waxed. Nico could still very much lose to another alchemist because the only advantage he has, which is him being an outlier, is that his skin is just harder than theirs. But there are ways to get around that, right? And so
Hmm.
I wanted him to be different, but not so different that he is Nine-Tailed Fox unbeatable. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And reaching God mode and all of those things.
Damn. Yeah. Damn. I I need all the chapters like by tomorrow. I need all the I hate to put you in crunch mode, brother, but I need like all the chapters by tomorrow. Let's say noon-ish. You know what? Noon-ish. You know what I'm saying? Let's play with the time. I love that fact because when I saw the two of them, I like I when I first saw River change her body when my man went in with the speed and
Mm.
he hit and it didn't work, and I was like, oh, you're done. You are done. And then when I saw Nico transmute to the Onyx, I was like, first off, I like the Onyx better just because I like darker metals.
Yeah, same.
Aside like gold's never been my thing. I've always like silver, onyx, like like darker metals. So when I saw him change, I was like, oh yeah, I was already messing with this family to begin with, but now I want to know about the father and what he would like. So I'm thinking about that
Mm.
again because again, that's that investment, that's that caring, that's that intriguing. If y'all can do this, what could your father do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I love that aspect of it, and being able to how they're just because like I said, the characters are so diverse and so creative,
Mm.
and like I was telling you, I love the fact that you had a whole culture, a whole culture that was non-binary, um because it was just, and I actually love their character because they were the one that was like, well, it is legal for you to kill them if you if you fight for us, you'll be a part of it, so you'll be a part of our gym.
Mhm.
So I definitely I love that fact of just being able, like, I mean, I found a way, but the characters are so diverse and the world is so crazy, just expanding. And I love that you have a map of it too. That shows again world building.
Mm.
Whenever you have things like something, if you have something in your book that I could find at a later date in a source book,
Mm.
I know you're building the world crazy. Like that's on some like John Hickman type
Mm.
stuff. Because
Mm.
Jonathan Hickman, I don't know if he could just write a short story. This dude thinks in years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was that type of thing. So whenever I see something like that in the book, I go, okay, there's more to it. There's more layers. There's more world building. Because you're such a student of the game of storytelling and anime and comics and everything, I would love to know what are three comics, anime, or excuse me, or manga that are like favorites to you that you like. They could be new, old, something that got you into it. Like what are three for you that do it?
I'm a I'm a span my lifetime
Okay.
with this answer. Uh, and then I'm gonna also give you a very necessary honorable mention. All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So first, the first anime, not the first anime I watched, but the first one that made me feel like I was missing out on something, right? Like my entry point, like most people, was Dragon Ball Z, right?
Yeah.
And I was just strictly entertained by Dragon Ball Z. Like I
Mhm.
was somewhat invested, but Dragon Ball Z is
Mhm.
mostly action limited plot, right? But then on Adult Swim, I discovered Yu Yu Hakusho. And up until that point, I had only really been watching anime on Toonami. So I had like Dragon Ball Z, I had Ronin Warriors, like the very, for lack of a better phrase, like surface level things, right? Like
Okay. Yeah.
all most of the depth in something like Dragon Ball Z is like what I'm deciding to add to it, not
Mhm.
necessarily like what is written in, right?
Mhm.
Um, but Yu Yu Hakusho was like, one, it was geared towards adults, which, like, for me as a young black boy who was very much adultified at a young age, it had more appeal to me. And then two, Yusuke felt like such a hood character to me. He felt like the homies, right? Like he ain't had no daddy, right? He was in a
Mhm.
single mother household, broke, you know what I'm saying? His mom
Mhm.
drunk all the time. And he had this perception of being like this troublemaker, this hardball kid, but he was also like really caring, right? And that was me, that was a lot of the homies. Like it was like, yo, I grew up in a broke house, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like limited resource neighborhood. Very much had a lot of those situations where people were perceiving me a specific way than, you know, how I was a danger outside, but in the house, I'm like, oh, I am a nerd. I'm trying to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And like, you know, do all
Mhm.
static shock, do all the things. And there was like very limited space for my compassion in a way that I felt like I was watching happen with Yusuke Urameshi. And then homie died, right?
Yep.
And was given like a whole new purpose and being a spirit detective. And you know, while some people could look at that like, you know, oh, you have to die to be of value, it had like such a different appeal to me. Like to me, it was like, yo, I have value outside of what people are perceiving me to have. Right? Because like when Yusuke died, he didn't become a different person, right? They
Nope.
they gave him a job, but he was still the same Yusuke. So all of the stuff he brought to being a spirit detective was all of the stuff he already had in him. And that was so monumental to me. And that like basically caused me to jump into the rabbit hole. I'm like, yo, if it's stuff out there like this, I'm slacking. Like, I need to find everything. I started going to Borders to figure out
Yep.
read the mangas. I started like jumping on the line wires. I'm like, yo, where's the stuff that they not showing on TV? So that's one. Yu Yu Hakusho is one of my all-time favorites. Um, then taking it to kind of like the middle of my life, Gurren Lagann was another
Ah.
really impactful anime to me. And I literally, my wife hears me say this, my homies hear me say this, but when Kamina used to tell Simon, like, believe in the me that believes in you, that's such a bar.
It,
Such a bar.
it had no reason to be that deep. It had no reason to be
Oh,
that deep. Because that was
it's
a line I was like, wait,
oh,
what?
yeah. And like, not to like, you know, get too like into my own story, but in 2022, like I went through a very serious breakup, and I took a year after that relationship to be single and like really also like dive into some of the things I thought I was healed from that I wasn't. Also, like really intentionally working on my relationship with intimacy and affection because I had some prior experiences that I think really damaged my understanding of myself as like an intimate and affectionate human.
Mhm.
And during that period, I didn't like isolate, which is something I typically would do. And part of it was because like that whole like sentiment of like believing in me that believes in you stuck with me. And it also led me to like evolve into a mentality of if all my homies are pouring into me, if I isolate, I'm doing a disservice to what they offer me. So if they're going to give to me and I'm going to receive, I have to make sure that even if I'm showing up at 50%, that I'm here. You know what I'm saying? That I'm
Mhm.
outside because that is me paying back what they've invested. If I just
Yes.
get invested in and then I isolate in the crib, it's like, yo, like thank you for pouring into me, but I'm not honoring what you have offered up. So I gotta come outside. I gotta still text you. I gotta still get on the phone with you because you believe in me. And if I don't believe in me right now, I'm gonna believe in what you believe in. You know what I'm saying? And I don't
Exactly.
think I would have made that connection had I not watched Gurren Lagann 3 times, like the
Mhm.
whole series. You know what I'm saying? So that's number
Mhm.
two. And then now we'll bring it to modern day. This just started as an anime, but I've been reading the manga for a little bit now. Gacha Kuda is fucking phenomenal. Gacha Kuda is phenomenal. If you haven't heard of it,
That the
have
one that
you,
just started a couple weeks ago?
yeah, it started as an anime, yeah, but they're on volume 7 with the manga. Um,
Okay.
So I'll give you like a quick synopsis. Basically, in this world, kind of a little bit like Battle Angel Alita, there's a society of people that live like in a
Okay.
floating,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and then there's like the people that live on the ground.
Mhm.
Now, in this world, all the trash in a floating city gets dumped on the ground, right? And if you do a severe crime, they also dump you on the ground, which is a very steep fall, right? So there's this character, Rudo, he's the main character, and his father was put on trial for murder and dumped, right? So he is believed, like everyone in the village, in the floating city, looks at him as like the father of the son of a murderer, and da 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 da. He's poor. He got discarded. This random guy started raising him, and the only memento he has from his father are these gloves that he takes care of, like with every fiber of his being. He's also a trash digger because he's poor. So the person who's taking care of him ends up getting murdered. They blame him for it because he's the son of a murderer, and they
Mhm.
dump him. But he survives the fall, and on the ground, and this is why it's so phenomenal to me. On the ground, you find out that there are people called givers, and this is the whole power. This is what the whole power system is based on. Basically, if you have an item that's special to you and you take care of it over an extended period of time, your spiritual energy begins to pour into that item. And eventually, that item, you can transform it and it will have an ability because of how well you have taken care of it. So it's a power system that is specifically based on the things that are important to you. And that shit is like I love power systems that are like real world applicable, right? Like this
Mhm.
idea that the more I nurture something, the more it gives back to me in some type of way. And so like for Rudo, his thing is his gloves because he's been taking care of them his whole life. And he finds out that he has giver abilities because he's been doing this thing that he didn't even know was a thing to do just because these gloves meant a lot to him. And then it like spirals out into all this like other stuff. But that power system is really phenomenal to me. And like watching this character who has been told he was nothing his whole life find value in everything because he believes that because he doesn't believe he's nothing, then nothing is nothing and everything is important in some
Mhm.
form or fashion. And like, yeah, that's just phenomenal. So that's number 3. And then honorable mention, because I cannot talk about my favorites without talking about this. This would have been on the list, but it just didn't serve the purpose of the list.
Okay.
Naruto is my all-time favorite anime and manga. Not because I think it's the best, but just because like of the space it took up in my life. I started watching Naruto when I was in middle school. Me and Naruto was the same age, right? I literally grew up with Naruto. By the time Naruto married Hinata, I was old enough to get married, right? Like, so Naruto is like my homie for real, for real. And there was so many things. Sasuke is my favorite character. And there were so many things with like Sasuke's story that really got me thinking about how much I as a person um can shoulder too much and the ripple effects that can have. And I feel like when you're doing it, and this kind of goes to like something you were bringing up earlier, when you're doing it, it's kind of hard to notice the impacts, right? Especially like when we
Mhm.
start talking about our identities as Black men and some of the social scripts that we're fed of like, there's no time to feel, you got to like buckle down, do the work, like all of these things, you got to protect and provide and take care of all the things. And while some of that may be true, it's like we can't do that without also like including ourselves in the thing that we're protecting and providing. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? Um, and I didn't have a good toolkit for that because nobody around me had a good toolkit for that. But watching Sasuke like shoulder all of the trauma of his clan and be like, yo, not only am I trying to like get retribution for all my people, now I find out that the story I was told isn't even a true story. And then now the people I was trying to get retribution for, I kind of got to get retribution against. And it was like he went through this whole whirlwind, which I feel like a lot of us can do because, you know, unfortunately, I feel like, you know, Black families keep a lot of secrets and we find out a lot of things like when we get older and then it starts changing how we view stuff. And it can be really scarring, you know what I'm saying? And you know, when we get to towards the end of Naruto, Sasuke is like, bro, I'm a box up all the tail beasts and I'm gonna become Hokage and I'm gonna be the biggest villain so that everybody could be at peace because they'll all hate me. You know what I'm saying? And that is like the epitome to me of like shouldering everything. He's like, yo, I can't be a part of everybody's peace. So I will be an antagonizer so everyone can be in unison together. And watching that, I was like, bro, this feels horrible. And then the only person who he loved, Naruto, was the person he had to kill in his mind because he's like, bro, well, if I love you and you still around, I can't accomplish my mission. So the thing that inspires the most emotion in me has to be eradicated. And I feel like we've all been there in like some roundabout way, in some weird way, you know what I'm saying? Not like necessarily one-to-one, but like this idea that the things that make me feel the most are the things I have to distance from because I'm not trying to feel right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so yeah, like Naruto will always hold a very special place in my heart for like all of those reasons. So those are my top four like staples.
Those are strong choices, especially the Naruto one because it's one I've only watched like 3 episodes. I couldn't get past the orange and the and that's so surface, but I don't know, it'd
be like that sometimes.
It bugged me, but I respect people who love it because I watched that Rock Lee fight like anybody else. And when he was like, "Oh, let me take these off," and they hit the ground, and I was like, I haven't watched the anime, but I gotta watch this fight. This fight's ridiculous. And when he because he looks like a goof, you know, with the haircut and everything, and you're like, okay. And when he's like, "Oh, well, you know, I can take these weights off," and that's usually like, you know, a trope in anime, but you're not expecting him to do the work that he did, and it's crazy. So I can always respect someone who did, because a lot of people dig Naruto.
Yeah,
you know, because of the story, and they say that, you know, the story is so deep in all the different villages, everything. I just couldn't get past the orange, especially the orange sandals for some reason, and the Believe It.
Oh, Believe It was so, and I mean,
and I thought maybe it was a translation. I thought maybe that they got the translation messed up because it was on like Toonami, I want to say.
Yeah.
I think so I thought maybe it was that, like it was that, but people like, no, that's what it is. And I was like, okay, cool, all right.
I always say, and some people feel strongly about this opinion, but I would die on this hill. As a character, I didn't like Naruto until the Ninja War. I like a bunch of people around Naruto, but like Naruto himself, I didn't like until the Ninja War. And even then, he was just like in the middle to me. When I transitioned to like, oh, I like Bull, was when he became an adult. Adult Naruto is him. I like adult Naruto. Like once he Hokage and he got a son and he riding for the folks, he the one. But child Naruto,
yeah,
X that, bro. X that.
He was very annoying. I was like, oh, I can't. As far as Yu Hakusho, I don't know if you can see the mug. I always ride with Hiei.
Let's go.
Hiei is one of the characters who I just identify with. Dragon of the Darkness Flame alone. He went into a fight and his hands were all burned up because he had still been training and fighting. And I'm short, so I identify with him, Vegeta. Because they're short guys.
I love Vegeta.
But they got the worst attitudes possible. Like not that I have the worst attitude, but I can understand being short. You know, society at a certain point, more years ago than now, but you know, you're short, you know, people look past you, what have you. So I understood them being these guys that like, I'm gonna waste everybody and you're all gonna learn a lesson. And I
Yeah.
understand it. But he just always resonated with me because of that, because of the sword play. And but once I saw him with the Dragon of Darkness Flame and how he trained so hard and was so bruised up and he was still walking in the fight like, no. I got this. Sit down. He just walked up and everybody just was like, all right, cool. And him, so I really identify with that. All those picks are awesome. But now it comes to the hardest question.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest question on the show. Now I told you that you have between two different answers. Well, two different questions for this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with this one. Because of what you've already told me on the show,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with this one. What is your favorite snack?
Yeah, what's my favorite snack? So this might be because I am on the spectrum.
Okay.
But I am very decisive. So
Mhm.
this actually is not a super hard question for me. So if we're talking like decadent, because I'm gonna have more than one answer. If we're talking like decadent, it's been a really hard day, and I need to treat myself to
Mhm.
something that I know is gonna completely switch my mood like instantly.
Okay.
I have a gluten allergy, and that's important in regards to what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Acme has a gluten-free white chocolate strawberry cake, right?
Oh.
It's a big ass slice, right? That comes in like the container.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good. And it's one of the few like gluten-free cakes that I don't have to like search for, that I could like easily access,
Mm-hmm.
that don't taste gluten-free. It just tastes like a regular cake. And that John, I know if I could get me a couple forkfuls of that John, it don't matter. I could have got hit by a car that day. I'm gonna be good with this John.
Damn, that's some
So
super cake right there.
yeah, it's a powerful John. So that's like but it's like $15 for that big slice. It's not cheap.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But if we talking just like low tier, this was real quick. I had to get this out the way. This is actually a newer snack. So Smarties, I don't know if they in a rebranding phase or something,
Mm-hmm.
but they have a raspberry cream marshmallow snack. Yeah, bro.
Damn.
It's at Target. Look it up. Smarties, they like these little like pillow-shaped
Mm-hmm.
marshmallows, and they raspberry cream flavored. I could kill a whole bag of them Johns. They like $4. They so delicious. And I'm like, whatever Smarties is doing right now, business-wise, they got to keep it up. Because them Johns, I'm like, forget them little tart Johns. They good too. But these raspberry cream marshmallow candies, they perfect.
You are the quickest person to ever answer that question. Everyone else dreaded that answer. They dreaded that answer.
It's the
And I
autism.
know it does, and it does depend, but depends on how your day is, what time of day it is, what's
Mhm.
going on. Like, it does. Real quick answer for me, one of my favorite snacks is Wise popcorn.
Ooh, that's a solid choice. That's a
I'm a
solid choice.
popcorn eater. I try not to eat too much movie popcorn because I end up putting, the salt and everything else, so it just makes it worse, and it just ends up ruining my stomach. But
Mm,
Wise, nice, quick, easy, pop right in, stays fresh for a good long time even after you open the bag, and
mm,
it's the perfect buttery taste of what I need. A funny thing is, if I'm home, I'm just eating it. I'm not even watching a movie when I'm eating it. I'm just eating it. I haven't watched a movie with it since, and it makes no sense. And it's usually on sale at ShopRite.
mm,
So I'll pick up a bag of that and I'm good because I'm trying not to eat chips or potato chips or anything like that
mhm,
anymore. Trying to cut all that out. So
mm.
popcorn is that one that gets me. Second choice, I gotta go with this. Ben and Jerry's non-dairy lights
Ooh,
caramel action. It's
ooh,
yes, that is decadent as hell, but I love it. It's based on Ava DuVernay. It's non-dairy, obviously vanilla. It has little bits of graham cracker, vanilla swirl. No, salted caramel. Excuse me, salted caramel swirl, and cookie dough. Because I'm a big fan of chocolate chip cookie dough.
ooh, that all sound crazy.
It's like $6 or $7, but if I get it on sale and they'll have like a 2 for $5, I'm picking up 2. Non-berry. It tastes incredible. After that would be matcha green tea ice cream from Haagen-Dazs.
Oh yeah, I can get
Cleansing, beautiful, love it.
the ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah, that but
Jenny's
popcorn is probably that one.
too.
Yeah.
Jenny's hard.
Yeah, there's I mean there's like I can go different brands, everything, because every brand's got their one that I like a lot. But that Ben and Jerry's non-dairy, that light caramel action just hits a spot that I love. It just and I just started eating it what maybe this year actually. Yeah, this year I just started eating it. It's been around for a while. I just never picked it up. I was like, let me. I was like, what? Ben and Jerry's is on sale. Well, let me jump on this because that was like $6 or $7. Let me grab 2 for $5. Grabbed it. I was at home late night. I was like, all right, yeah, I'm pops. Ate it. I was like, oh, well, I don't think this is gonna go back in the freezer. I think this is done for the night. I'm glad I got a second one. This is not gonna happen. This is it. This is it. All right, so folks, look. Immortal Dark is just a phenomenal manga. Like I've said, it's got action. It's got an incredible cast of characters. It has this lush world that we're just getting into, and there's so much more of it. And it also speaks a lot about trauma and the cycles of trauma and compounding trauma. Just how you deal with it and what you do when you come face to face with when it's staring you. Actually, when it's staring you literally in your face, and you have to deal with it. What you do, James, is incredible. By taking your work and the trauma that you have dealt with in your own personal life and in the work that you do, and use the medium of your writing in this manga to flesh it out and to heal with it, as well as find your own answers, like you were saying, finding the answer to a question that you don't know. It's a beautiful thing. There are comics like these are to keep coming out, mangas like these are to keep coming out. We have more series, more everything is coming out, and there are layers to it. And when it's done right, when it's done in a way that really hits you, and you can start feeling good and not even realize it at times, that's also another key that this is hitting. This is a manga, a comic that I've loved. Like I said, I've read it numerous times. When I saw that Kickstarter, I said, yeah, bet let me jump on this again. Because that first ride was awesome. And I'm just so excited for what more you're going to bring to it with the redesigns that you've done for this world. Not even just the characters, but for the world. And what you're going to be spotlighting. And if by some chance there is an Atlantean miniseries, I'm down for that as well, because the minute you said like Bleach, and I love my man's attitude as well, and I love Black people in water. I love that aesthetic. I love Black like mermaids, everything like that, stuff like that. I always thought it would be interesting to not have. I always thought with everything with like slave trade and everything, I was like, why we never see like Black underwater beings? And I've never really seen that. So I love that vibe and flow, and what you're doing is incredible. All I want to say is keep pushing, keep doing what you're doing. It's phenomenal, and it all matters. Truly, deeply does matter, sir.
I appreciate that, yo. That makes me feel good. I appreciate that.
Tell me, that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. So, folks, please go and check out Immortal Dark, a manga. And when you see something pop up for Immortal Dark, Kickstarters, what have you, I need you to go and pledge it. If you don't have it on you right now, I know sometimes right now in this world, unfortunately, in America, the pockets are tight. The pockets are tight, like like if I was wearing a 9-year-old's t-shirt, that's tight. Share it. Let people know, because this is one of those stories that it definitely hit me hard in a multitude of ways, especially when I started looking at the actual emotional work that was done in the comic. It definitely hits hard. All right, so do you have any parting words for? Oh, you know what? Actually, one more thing. I totally forgot about this, and I apologize about this, sir. Your nonprofit work.
Oh yeah.
We got so deep into everything else. So this is very, very, very deep conversation.
Well, yeah, I am a program director for this nonprofit in Philadelphia called Artwell. And we use multidisciplinary arts education to teach students social emotional learning and community activism in the Philadelphia area. What you can see on the screen right here is our website, theartwell.org. So yeah, if you are looking for multiple ways to support me and or community, checking out theartwell.org, our programming, volunteering, donating. Well, actually, if you're gonna donate to me first, so I could finish getting these chapters illustrated. But then you can donate to the nonprofit. But yeah, those we're really doing some dope work in Philadelphia. All of our teaching artists are also active career artists, so we're employing actual artists in Philadelphia and putting them in front of students to do some really good work. We're a predominantly Black ran organization as well.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I love how you're working, in different facets. Again, using your art in different facets, in different platforms to help people across the board, especially Black people, because for a long time we weren't seen as being people,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
So to take and do art, which is such a beautiful thing, because art is about feeling and emotion, and in whatever medium it's in, and taking that to actually enrich lives is
yeah.
beautiful. Again, that's an awesome thing. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you very much.
No problem. No problem.
So folks, it has been a hell of a evening. We went over a little bit on time, but I'm not going to stop, because this was just this is one of those episodes I want to say is chicken noodle soup for the soul. Y'all know every so often I have an episode like that where I just start feeling very enriched. This was one of those episodes, and when that's happening, it always feels right. So on behalf of the show, thank you so very much, James. Just James Church, aka was it what's the poet name?
Enoch, yeah.
Enoch. I almost said Epoch, but I was like, I don't think it's Epoch. I want to say it's Enoch, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
in my head, it was like a 50-50 shot, and I was like, I don't want to get that 50-50 wrong, though. I'm going to be real with you. Thank you so very much, folks. It's been a very wonderful evening. Y'all have a very good day. Next week's episode, again, 5 o'clock, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will have on, it is, what is that, next Friday? Yes, I will have on Danger Hawk from Power Pro Lucha Wrestling. We're going to be talking about wrestling, which y'all know I'm a fan of as well. My first time speaking to a wrestler. I want to find out what's going on with the company. Just find out about them. It's going to be fun. I have a lot of time. Then after that, then the week after that, on the 15th, we'll have Jason Reeves and Robert Jeffrey to talk about their Kickstarter for 133 Art Publishing, their One Nation Arc 1 Omnibus, which is cool to me as well. I'm having these people on. I love what they're doing. Everybody's vibing and killing it out here in these streets. The indie game is beautiful. I love it. What y'all doing? All right, I'm done, folks. I gotta go take a nap or just go to bed. I don't know. It's been a long day, but thank you, James, so very much.
Thank you,
folks. Y'all have a very good evening. Enjoy the rest of it. Remember, keep turning those pages, because your story is not over yet. And as always, say it with me, as I do every single show: F Trump. Have a very good evening. Bye.